Now, speaking of pieces of shit, let's get into this one. So, we mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago that there was a NSYNC reunion allegedly in the works, and people were trying to figure out, okay, so once Justin Timberlake is done with his current tour for that flop album, that they would be in negotiations for a possible 25th anniversary reunion tour of NSYNC, which got a lot of people excited. A word on the curb is there's a lot of people that are interested in putting their money behind this show, and they really feel like they can make a huge financial killing with it. But the word on the street apparently is that Justin is not interested, which of course has gotten a lot of people pissed off. And if I was a member of NSYNC, I'd be pissed too. Because, well, I'll get into why in a second. But let's first get through the story. So shout out to the Daily Mail, because they have this. They said Justin Timberlake seems to be saying bye, bye, bye to NSYNC reunion tour talks because he's the odd man out in terms of who's willing to talk about it. Saying NSYNC founder Chris Kirkpatrick was directly confronted Monday about whether or not his 8-time Grammy-nominated boy band will be staging a stadium summer tour next year in honor of their 25th anniversary. Saying, "I'll tell you what, we're all in New York right now because we're putting." No, I'm kidding. The 52-year-old countertenor. Oh, that's what it said. Countertenor singer joked to New York Living. "We were all talking again, as you've seen some of the stuff we've been doing lately. We have 2 new songs, which is a lot different than the past 20 or so years that we haven't been together. So there's a lot. There's a lot we're talking about. Nothing in stone yet. When we know, you know." Chris also added, he said, "I am down. Yeah, I'm going to Pop 2000 tour right now, which is basically me by myself with those guys. So I miss them. We're all buds. We're all good friends." Well, I don't think they asked you all of that, but it seemed like you were overcompensating. So he said, Kirkpatrick wasn't kidding about the Big Apple, as Lance Bass shared a snap of himself at ZZ's Club's New York on Monday night after TMZ reported he was the one who coordinated a meeting Monday to discuss the future of the band. Well, one of the things I didn't know is that Chris Kirkpatrick was the one that founded NSYNC and put everybody together. And the cast of NSYNC were at it says Joey Fatone and JC Chazé. Besides Madonna, they were the 2 members that were at the Deadpool and Wolverine premiere in New York City, where they had it at Lincoln Center. Because I was like, where did they have it? And I saw the wall. I was like, where do I know that wall? And I couldn't remember. I lived in that area, or used to live in that area. So yeah, they had it at Lincoln Center, which I would think was a perfect spot to do the movie premiere. And that was the awesome thing about that. And because I remember when they had the first Deadpool, or maybe it was because it wasn't that big of a movie then, but when they did the first Deadpool, they had it at what it they had it at my old job at the AMC Empire 25. I remember they had that screening, and I remember that Ryan Reynolds and his wife and all of them were there. So I do remember going, being a part of that whole, premiere party. So they said that the outlet also claimed that Justin and his team have yet to address respective proposals from 4 months ago about the potential tour, and the other boy banders are disappointed with his radio silence. The troubled 43-year-old pop star is reportedly solely focused on his Forget Tomorrow World Tour, which he next brings to Poland's Tauron Arena this Friday. So I guess what it is now, he's I guess done with the US leg of his tour. Now he's doing the international leg of the tour. And once the tour is over, I feel like, which I don't even know when is the tour over, nor do I care, but I'm gonna just go on a limb and say maybe in the fall it'll be done. And then around that time, they could start negotiating putting this tour together. If not, then Justin, you ain't shit. But let me continue. So it said Friday also happens to be the same day as Justin's next court hearing. Ooh, for one charge of driving while intoxicated and infractions for running a stop sign and failure to keep in his lane, stemming from his June 18 DWI arrest in Sag Harbor. Timberlake's lawyer, Edward Burke Jr., told TMZ on June 19th, "We look forward to vigorously defending Mr. Timberlake against these allegations. is got a lot to say, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So Chris, JC, Joey, and Lance have every right to be salty about the selfish singer's reluctance, considering that they helped promote his 2023 movie Trolls Band Together with their new single, Better Place, and they also appear on his album doing a song together. So the thing that irritates me about this whole thing with Justin and everything is the fact that, to me, it seems like Justin only trots out and uses NSYNC when it's convenient for him. But when it comes around, which seemed like his MO and everything, but when it comes around to returning the favor, it's radio silence. And I'm glad I wasn't the only one that noticed that. It's like, oh yeah, here he go, because the bad reputation he has, what he did to Britney, what he did to Janet, all the other stuff that he's done over the years, that every time he decides to trot out NSYNC, then it's all of a sudden it's like, yay, like, don't pay attention to the shit that's going over here in my crappy new songs that y'all not featuring. But let me bring out NSYNC. There's a possibility we're going to do a tour and all this other stuff, and then nothing. So, he was at the top of his career. I don't feel like he's at the top of his career right now. He is struggling. Yeah, the tour is doing what it's doing, and, there's been word that his tour has been struggling. And that what is it? Yeah, that his tour has been that he's really been selling as many tickets as they've been saying he has. I believe at one point the seats were like what, $10 or less. And the one thing is that, from what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing, NSYNC has sold over 70 million records, and they still get 8.9 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So while NSYNC has not put out music in decades, there's still a hunger to see them live, especially with a lot of the younger people, like my generation, have never witnessed NSYNC live in concert. We've never seen NSYNC perform. So, and I feel like, it is true what they say when it comes to millennials, later millennials, and what is it, Gen X? I feel like a lot of us, once you start to hit your 40s, you start to feel a little nostalgic, because you're kind of like, it's not midlife, but it's midlife, but not midlife, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think you really hit midlife until you're in your 50s. But you're starting to realize that, I'm, in the words of Britney Spears, I'm not a girl, not yet a woman, but you're older, but not yet that young. So I feel like that's what we are at this point. And thinking about that, I feel like we're just in this whole nostalgia situation. So we're not at a place where we're at a place where we want to kind of see and sing and all that perform. So Justin pulling his little stunts or whatever, I really feel like he needs to get it together. Stop stuttering. Number one, stop BSing, and stop playing with the heartstrings of your fan base. And I don't know if this is it. Well, I guess I'll ask you guys. Do you actually think that him getting back with NSYNC, doing a reunion of sorts, will have people forgetting about the self-centered attitude, the selfish things that he's done in the past, and the recent DUI? Like, do you really feel like that if that happens, then all will be forgiven? Because to me, hearing this stuff that he's kind of just been playing coy, or hasn't really been returning messages or whatever the case, where that he's been solely focused on the tour, which I will give him that. It's like, you know what? One thing at a time. Like, I'm focused on the tour. I'm doing a whole lot of other things. Like, there's a lot of moving parts that comes with touring and that sort of thing. But if it comes to a point where so I'll give him that. But if you decide, like, oh yeah, I don't want to do it because, ego, or you feel like that, you know what, NSYNC gave me what it gave me at the time, so I don't want to go backwards. I want to look forwards. NSYNC was the great launching pad, but I'm a solo star, so I don't need y'all. Sir, even though you are a legacy act, you are no Beyonce. So, I really hope that he considers. And Justin, don't let this get to a point where people are just going to be pissed off at you in regards of you not want to do this tour because of ego, whatever the case is. But I ask you guys, what do you think of this tour? Do you think that Justin Timberlake is actually holding out maybe from either more money or the fact that it could be an ego thing that he's not interested in coming back? But I was also thinking this too. It was like, okay, so he's not, I guess some people could compare it to like Posh Spice and the Spice Girls, but Posh Spice was not the strong, the girl that was out there in the front. She's not the one who is the most talented vocally or whatever. She was a pretty face and she gave cute outfits, but she wasn't like the personality and the singer. Justin Timberlake was in the forefront alongside JC Chazé. And I don't know if NSYNC, if they decided they want to do the tour, I don't know if they can pull in the same amount of investors that they would with a Justin Timberlake. So yeah, while NSYNC is one of the biggest boy band groups or boy banders, and they've sold a lot of records and they're popular on Spotify and all those things, it's like I don't know if the other four can go out and do a tour. Even though I do believe, in my opinion, JC Chazé is the better singer. I've always thought he was the better singer, but it seemed like to me he was never the one that wanted to be out there with the personality and showcasing himself and that sort of thing. So I don't know if necessarily he wanted to get out there and be that. But and also it's just like with them four, I don't think they could pull off the same thing in sync with if they like Escape. Remember like Latasha Scott act like she was too damn good for Escape, and the other girl showed her they was able to go out and still tour. I believe tomorrow I'm doing their Queens of R&B tour, where it's them and SWV. So I don't think that they're gonna be able to pull the same thing as Escape, because the thing I think is the difference between Escape and NSYNC. NSYNC wasn't out here doing a lot of reality shows. Yeah, Chris Kirkpatrick did Celebrity Big Brother, where the shit with him and Todrick, but um Escape actually kept themselves in the limelight in other ways. You had Tiny doing the reality show with her and T.I. and the kids, and then I almost said Kenya, child. Candy was doing the Real Housewives of Atlanta for like 14 years, for almost 2 decades. So they kept themselves in the spotlight. So while the people who knew Escape, and then they did the Queens of R&B show, whatever. Remember, they did that show and the drama that transpired with that. So I think reality TV helped keep them in the spotlight and had a lot of those fans coming where they could still sell out arenas. I don't know if NSYNC could do that without Justin Timberlake. And if they can, then you know what? Combine it with other band members or other boy bands like a Backstreet Boys or whoever else. I don't know. They'll have to come up with something if they can't get Justin Timberlake on board. But whatever y'all think of this tea, let me know in the comments down below.